My name is Emily Harris. I'm 26. At 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in the motor pool office, Major Daniel Whitaker slammed a disciplinary report onto my desk so hard my coffee splashed onto the supply requisition forms I'd spent 3 hours completing the night before. Corporal Harris, you signed for 47 flashlights on Friday's inventory. We have 46. Explain the discrepancy. His voice carried across the entire logistics bay, where 8 other Marines were pretending not to listen. I kept my hands flat on the desk. Sir, I recounted yesterday afternoon. All 47 are accounted for. One was temporarily checked out to Sergeant Delgado for the field exercise. It's documented in the equipment log, page. Are you contradicting me? He leaned forward. His collar insignia caught the fluorescent light. Attention to detail is not optional, Corporal. This is the third error I've documented this month. My throat went dry. Sir, with respect, the first incident was a transposed number in a serial code that I corrected within 2 minutes. The second was... Excuses. He straightened, pulled out his pen, clicked it 3 times. His signature gesture before destroying someone's day. You're getting a formal written warning. This goes in your permanent file. Third strike, Harris. You know what that means for your upcoming promotion board. The room had gone completely silent. I could hear the wall clock ticking, tick, tick, tick. Sir, I can pull the equipment log right now. Delgado signed for that flashlight at 14:32 on Friday. I have his signature. I don't need to see logs. I need Marines who don't make me waste my time on basic accountability. He signed the bottom of the report with a flourish. You have 24 hours to submit a written response. Dismissed. I stood. My legs felt hollow. Aye, sir. He walked out. The moment the door closed, Corporal Reeves exhaled. Jesus, Em, that's harsh. I didn't answer. I was staring at the disciplinary report. Third formal warning in 5 weeks. All for errors that either didn't exist or were fixed before they became problems. And every single one conveniently appeared right before my promotion to sergeant was supposed to be finalized. Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. Let me take you back 4 years to when I first met General Robert Whitman. I was 22, fresh out of boot camp, standing in a diner in Jacksonville, North Carolina at 11 p.m. on a Sunday. I'd just finished my first week of logistics school, and I was exhausted, hungry, and surviving on $43 in my checking account until my next paycheck cleared. The place was nearly empty except for me, one waitress, and an older man in civilian clothes sitting 3 booths down. He was maybe 75, with white hair cropped military short and hands that shook slightly as he tried to count bills from his wallet. I watched him recount twice, then a third time. His jaw tightened. The waitress stood nearby, pretending to wipe down the counter. He was $6.50 short. I didn't think. I just walked over. Excuse me, sir, I think you dropped this. I held out a $10 bill. He looked at me. Really looked at me. His eyes were the pale blue of faded denim. I didn't drop anything, young lady. Yes, sir, you did, right by your booth. I kept my hand extended. A long pause. Then he took the money. Thank you. Semper Fi, sir. I'd noticed the eagle, globe, and anchor tattoo on his forearm. His whole face changed. You're a Marine? As of 6 days ago, sir. He smiled then, and it was like watching sunrise. Sit down. Let me buy you a cup of coffee. It's the least I can do. We talked for 2 hours. He told me about serving in Vietnam, about logistics being the backbone of every successful operation, about how the best leaders never forgot that systems were run by people. I told him about wanting to make the Marines my career, about loving the precision of inventory management, the satisfaction of knowing every piece of equipment was exactly where it needed to be. What's your name? He asked as we were leaving. Emily Harris, sir. Well, Emily Harris. I think you're going to do just fine. And listen. He paused at the door. Real leadership isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the most dependable one. Remember that. I never forgot. I also never knew that night that he was a 4-star general. I found out 3 years later when I saw his photo in the base newspaper. By then, I'd been transferred to Camp Lejeune, promoted to corporal, and assigned to the logistics unit under Major Daniel Whitaker. Major Whitaker was 34, ambitious, and determined to make lieutenant colonel before he turned 36. He ran our unit like a prison camp. Every typo was a failure. Every 5-minute delay was incompetence. Every question was insubordination. His favorite targets were the junior Marines who couldn't fight back. I became his primary target 2 months after General Whitman quietly arranged for me to receive a unit leadership award. I didn't know Whitman had recommended me. I just showed up to formation one morning and Colonel Reeves pinned a certificate to my uniform in front of the entire company. Whitaker's face went rigid. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. The first disciplinary report came 3 days later. I'd allegedly failed to properly secure a storage container, even though I had photos timestamped at 1645 showing all 6 padlocks in place. Whitaker wrote me up anyway. The second came 2 weeks after that. I'd supposedly miscounted ammunition during a training exercise. I pulled the inventory sheets signed by 2 other Marines confirming my count was accurate. Whitaker added a note to my file about defensive behavior when receiving corrective feedback. The third report, the flashlight incident, was this morning. I sat at my desk for 20 minutes after Whitaker left, staring at that report. My hands weren't shaking. That was the strange part. I felt utterly calm. Something had clicked into place. This wasn't about flashlights. This was about control. Whitaker needed someone to fail so he could look like a strong leader fixing problems, and I was convenient. That night, I went home to my small base apartment and found something I'd almost forgotten about. Tucked in the back of my closet was a box of memorabilia from my first year in the service. Underneath my boot camp graduation program, I found a business card. General Robert Whitman, retired. Personal cell number handwritten on the back. I'd never called it. It felt presumptuous. But I pulled out my phone and stared at that number for a long time. I didn't call. Not yet. Something told me to wait. The next morning, Wednesday, I submitted my written response to Whitaker's disciplinary report. I kept it factual. Equipment log citations, Sergeant Delgado's signature, time-stamped photos. No emotion. No accusations. Whitaker rejected it in 11 minutes. Insufficient accountability, his email said. Warning stands. Consider this your final opportunity to meet Marine Corps standards. Friday afternoon, I was inventorying vehicle fluids in the motor pool when Whitaker appeared with Sergeant Delgado. They stood 15 feet away, voices low, but the acoustics in that garage carried everything. I need you to confirm you never checked out that flashlight, Whitaker said. Long silence. Sir, I signed the log. Corporal Harris has my signature. You were mistaken about the date. You checked it out on Thursday, not Friday. Harris logged it wrong. Sir, I'm certain it was Friday. I remember because… Sergeant Delgado. Whitaker's voice dropped to ice. You have a promotion board next month, too. I'd hate for confusion about dates to reflect poorly on your attention to detail. I was crouched behind a Humvee, frozen. I couldn't see their faces, but I heard Delgado's exhale. Understood, sir. I'll double-check my records. Good man. They walked away. I stayed behind that Humvee for 5 full minutes, oil pan wrench in my hand, feeling something cold settle into my chest. He was rewriting the evidence, and Delgado was letting him. That weekend, I drove 3 hours to visit my mom. I needed to clear my head, to remember there was a world beyond this base, but when I arrived, she took one look at my face and said, "What happened?" I told her everything. She listened quietly, then said, "Emily, you need to document everything. Dates, times, witnesses, emails, everything. This man is building a case to destroy your career. I know. And you need to call that general, the one from the diner. Mom, I can't just call a 4-star general because my boss is being unfair. Why not? If he gave you his number, he meant for you to use it. But I didn't call. Pride, maybe. Or the belief that I should be able to fix this myself. Monday morning, 7:15 a.m., I arrived at the office to find Whitaker waiting with Colonel Reeves. Corporal Harris, Reeves said. His face was uncomfortable. You're being temporarily reassigned from unit supervisor duties pending investigation into multiple accountability failures. My stomach dropped. Sir, what investigation? Whitaker's expression was perfectly neutral. A pattern of inventory discrepancies has emerged. We need to ensure there's no deeper issue before your promotion board. Standard procedure. Sir, I request to see the specific discrepancies. That's not how this works, Corporal, Reeves said, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. You'll continue your other logistics duties, but Corporal Morrison will handle supervisor responsibilities for now. Morrison was 23, had been in the unit for 4 months, and once asked me how to file a supply requisition. This was a demotion in everything but name. Understood, sir, I said. I walked back to my desk. 3 Marines I'd worked with for 8 months suddenly found reasons to avoid eye contact. By lunch, I'd overheard Morrison tell someone, I guess they finally caught her cutting corners. That rumor, that I'd been cutting corners, falsifying records, spread through the unit like gas fumes. No one asked me if it was true. They just started treating me like I was. That afternoon, I sat in the empty logistics classroom during my lunch break and called the number on General Whitman's card. It went to voicemail. Went to, General Whitman, sir, this is Corporal Emily Harris. We met 4 years ago at a diner in Jacksonville. You told me real leadership was about being dependable. Sir, I'm trying to be that, but I could use some guidance. If you have a moment, I'd appreciate the chance to talk. Semper Fi. I hung up, felt stupid. A retired 4-star general probably got 100 calls like this. He called back in 37 minutes. Emily Harris. His voice was exactly as I remembered it, steady, warm, certain. The Marine who bought me dinner. Coffee, sir. And technically you bought mine. He laughed. What's wrong? I told him everything. The disciplinary reports, the false accusations, Whitaker's conversation with Delgado, the reassignment. I kept my voice level, factual, professional. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Emily, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to listen carefully. Can you do that? Yes, sir. This Major Whitaker is building a paper trail to bury you. He's doing it because you represent a threat, not to him personally, but to the narrative he's selling his superiors. He needs to show results, and breaking a good Marine is easier than building a strong unit. My throat tightened. Yes, sir. But here's what he doesn't know. I've been watching your career since that night in the diner. I pulled strings to get you that leadership award because you earned it. And I've got friends, good friends, who know exactly what kind of leader you are versus what kind Whitaker is. Sir, I don't want special treatment. This isn't special treatment. This is making sure the right people know the truth when the time comes. Now here's what you're going to do. Keep documenting everything. Do your job perfectly, better than perfectly. Don't react. Don't defend. Just be excellent. Can you do that? Yes, sir. Good. And Emily? Trust me when I say this. The truth has a way of finding the right audience. You just have to be patient. We talked for another 10 minutes. He asked about my career goals, my technical skills, my leadership philosophy. It felt less like a pep talk and more like preparation. When we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. I followed his advice. For the next 6 weeks, I showed up early, left late, and did every task Whitaker assigned with meticulous precision. I documented everything: emails, inventory sheets, signed logs, time-stamped photos. I kept a personal notebook with dates, witnesses, and exact quotes. Whitaker escalated. He started showing up unannounced at 5:30 a.m. to inspect my work before anyone else arrived. He'd find microscopic issues, a label placed 1 inch too far left, a cable coiled clockwise instead of counterclockwise. He wrote me up for failure to follow standard operating procedures 6 times in 3 weeks. My promotion board was postponed indefinitely. One Thursday evening, I was working late to prepare for a surprise inspection Whitaker had scheduled for the next morning. The logistics office was empty except for me when he walked in. "Still here, Harris?" He sounded almost pleasant. "Just finishing the pre-inspection staging, sir." He walked over to my desk, picked up my coffee cup, examined it. "You know what your problem is?" I kept my eyes on the inventory spreadsheet. "No, sir." "You think effort matters. You think if you just work hard enough, follow every rule, document everything perfectly, that somehow you'll prove you belong here." He set the cup down. "But the truth is, some people just aren't cut out for leadership. And the sooner you accept that, the easier this will be." Something inside me went very, very cold. "Sir, with respect, I am cut out for leadership. My record—" "Your record shows a pattern of accountability failures under pressure. That's what the board will see. That's what matters." He walked out. I sat there for a long time. Then I pulled out my phone and called my mom. "He's not going to stop," I said. "I know, baby. My promotion board is next week. If these reports stay in my file, I'm done." "Then you need to call that general again." "Mom, I already talked to him. He said to be patient." Emily Margaret Harris, my mother's full name voice. Sometimes patience is wisdom. Sometimes it's just fear with a polite name. Which one is this? I closed my eyes. "I don't know." "Yes, you do." I called General Whitman that night, got voicemail again, left a message explaining that my board was in 6 days and Whitaker's reports would bury me. This time he didn't call back. 3 days passed. Nothing. I started wondering if I'd imagined that first conversation. If maybe I'd been a project for him, a quick good deed, and now he'd moved on. My promotion board was scheduled for Wednesday, 9 a.m. Tuesday afternoon, I received an email from Colonel Reeves. "Promotion board postponed. Awaiting resolution of pending administrative review." No explanation, no timeline. I was sitting at my desk, staring at that email, when Corporal Morrison walked over. He looked uncomfortable. "Hey, Em. I just wanted to say, I know you're going through something, and for what it's worth, I don't think you cut corners." It was the first kind thing anyone had said to me in 2 months. "Thanks, Morrison. But—" He hesitated. "Whitaker's putting together a formal recommendation to transfer you out of logistics entirely. He's citing your accumulated warnings as evidence you're better suited for a different MOS, a different military occupational specialty. They were going to take away the only thing I was good at." "When?" My voice sounded distant to my own ears. "He's presenting it to Colonel Reeves tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bunk, staring at the ceiling, doing the math. 8 disciplinary reports in 10 weeks, all for errors that were either non-existent or immediately corrected, all perfectly timed to destroy my credibility right before critical career milestones. And I couldn't prove any of it mattered because Whitaker controlled the narrative. At 2:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. "Emily, this is General Whitman. Tomorrow at 8 a.m., there's a command review meeting in the headquarters office building, 3rd floor, conference room C. Major Whitaker will be there presenting his case. So will Colonel Reeves and several other senior officers. I need you to be there, too. Don't bring anything. Don't prepare anything. Just be present and tell the truth if asked. Trust me." I read it 4 times. Then I replied, "Yes, sir." Wednesday morning, 7:45 a.m., I stood outside conference room C in my service alphas, hands steady, heart hammering. Through the door's window, I could see Whitaker at the head of a long mahogany table, presenting from a tablet. Colonel Reeves sat to his right. 3 other officers I didn't recognize sat along the sides. At the far end of the table, facing Whitaker, sat General Robert Whitman. He was in full dress uniform. 4 stars gleamed on his shoulders. The door opened. A staff sergeant gestured me inside. "Corporal Harris?" "Yes. The general will see you now." I walked in. Every officer turned to look at me. Whitaker's face went sheet white. "Corporal Harris?" General Whitman's voice filled the room without him raising it. "Thank you for joining us. Please have a seat." I sat in the empty chair at the opposite end from Whitman, facing down the table toward Whitaker. "General, I wasn't aware," Whitaker started. "Major Whitaker, please continue your presentation. You were explaining the pattern of accountability failures you've documented regarding Corporal Harris's performance." Whitaker's jaw clenched. "Yes, sir. As I was saying, over the past 10 weeks, Corporal Harris has accumulated 8 formal disciplinary reports for various inventory management failures, procedural violations, and—" "Can you elaborate on the specific failures?" Whitman asked. "Sir, the first incident involved a serial number transposition in a weapons inventory, which she corrected in 2 minutes according to the report timestamp, before any actual discrepancy occurred." Whitaker blinked. "Sir, the error occurred in the first place. How long have you been in logistics, Major?" 11 years, sir." "In 11 years, have you ever transposed a number?" Long pause. "Yes, sir." "Did you write yourself a formal disciplinary report?" Colonel Reeves shifted uncomfortably. "No, sir, but—" "Continue with the second incident." Whitaker's hands tightened on his tablet. "A miscount of ammunition during a training exercise. Was it a miscount, or was the documentation submitted by another unit late?" Whitman pulled out a folder. "I have the official after-action report here. Says quite clearly that Corporal Harris's initial count was accurate. The discrepancy appeared because Sergeant Morrison's team filed their expenditure report 6 hours after the exercise ended, outside the standard window." Morrison. The same corporal who'd been assigned to replace me as unit supervisor. Whitaker's face was turning red. "Sir, with respect, the totality of these incidents demonstrates a pattern." "The third incident," Whitman continued as if Whitaker hadn't spoken, "involved a flashlight allegedly missing from inventory, a flashlight that was signed out to Sergeant Delgado on Friday, March 15th, at 14:32, according to the equipment log bearing his signature. Is Sergeant Delgado present?" A door at the side of the room opened. Delgado walked in, looking like he wanted to sink through the floor. "Sergeant Delgado," Whitman said gently, "did you check out that flashlight on Friday, March 15th? "Yes, sir." "Did Major Whitaker ask you to say otherwise?" Delgado's eyes flicked to Whitaker, then back to Whitman. "Sir, I was advised that I might have been confused about the date." "By whom?" "Major Whitaker, sir." The room went completely silent. Whitaker stood. "General, I object to this line of questioning. Sergeant Delgado's testimony is being taken out of context." "Sit down, Major." Colonel Reeves's voice was sharp. Whitaker sat. Whitman leaned back in his chair. "I've been in the Marine Corps for 43 years. I've seen a lot of leaders, good ones, bad ones, and ones who mistake control for competence." He looked directly at Whitaker. "Major, over the past 6 weeks, I've had 13 Marines from your unit contact me, anonymously, because they were afraid of retaliation, to report your pattern of targeting junior enlisted personnel with excessive paperwork for minor infractions. 3 of them were confident enough in their documentation to put their names on sworn statements." He opened the folder, pulled out a stack of papers. "Corporal Jefferson, written up for a uniform button that was improperly aligned during a field exercise. Corporal Yamamoto, formal warning for using the wrong color pen on a requisition form, despite that form being submitted digitally. Lance Corporal Torres, 3 separate reports for unprofessional communication, which upon review consisted of her asking clarifying questions about contradictory orders." He looked up. "Shall I continue?" Whitaker's mouth opened, closed. "Sir, leadership requires maintaining high standards." Leadership requires integrity, Major, something you've demonstrated a profound lack of. Whitman's voice was quiet, but it cut like a blade. You didn't target these Marines to maintain standards. You targeted them to create a paper trail that made you look decisive. You chose junior enlisted personnel because they had the least institutional power to fight back. And you chose Corporal Harris specifically because her competence made your incompetence more visible. That's not, Whitaker started. I'm not finished. Whitman stood. Everyone at the table stood with him. I've reviewed every single disciplinary report you filed against Corporal Harris. Not one, not a single one, represents an actual failure of duty. What they represent is a systematic campaign of harassment designed to derail a promising Marine's career because you needed a scapegoat. He walked around the table toward Whitaker, stopped 3 feet away. Attention to detail is not optional, Major. That's what you told Corporal Harris. You're right. Or, attention to detail isn't optional, which is why I paid very close attention to how you've been running this unit. And what I found is that you're a bully with a rank insignia. Whitaker's face had gone from red to gray. Sir, I demand. You demand nothing. Colonel Reeves stood. Major Whitaker, effective immediately. You are relieved of command of this logistics unit pending formal investigation. You will report to the base legal office this afternoon at 1500 hours. Dismissed. Whitaker looked around the room like a drowning man looking for a rope. No one met his eyes. He left. The moment the door closed, my knees went weak. I gripped the edge of the table. General Whitman turned to me. Corporal Harris, I apologize that it took this long. I needed to build an airtight case. These men, he gestured to the other officers, are from Inspector General's office. They've been reviewing your unit's practices for 3 weeks. I couldn't find words. One of the IG officers, a lieutenant colonel, spoke. Corporal Harris, for the record, we found no evidence of any actual policy violations on your part. All disciplinary reports filed by Major Whitaker have been removed from your permanent file. Your promotion board has been rescheduled for next week. I nodded. My throat was too tight to speak. Colonel Reeves stepped forward. Corporal Harris, I owe you an apology. I should have looked deeper when the pattern emerged. I failed you as a commanding officer. Sir, you didn't know. I should have. He looked genuinely pained. That's on me. General Whitman waited until the other officers filed out, until it was just the 2 of us in that big conference room. You did good, Emily. You kept records. You stayed professional. You didn't let him turn you bitter. Sir, how did you know? How did you know to look into this? He smiled. Because 4 years ago, a 22-year-old Marine who barely had $50 to her name gave a stranger money for a meal. And when I tried to refuse, she looked me in the eye and insisted. That told me everything I needed to know about her character. So when she called asking for guidance, I paid attention. My eyes filled. I couldn't help it. I've been keeping tabs on your career since that night, he continued. I saw the award ceremony. I saw Whitaker's reaction. I've got friends at every level of this base, Emily. People talk. And when the pattern started, I started listening. You were waiting. I was building a case. Because the thing about bullies like Whitaker is that they're arrogant. Give them enough rope, they'll hang themselves. I just needed enough documentation to make sure he couldn't weasel out of it. I wiped my eyes. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. You saved yourself. I just made sure the right people were watching when you did. He headed toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Emily, that promotion board next week, knock 'em dead. He left. I sat in that empty conference room for 10 minutes, just breathing. The next week, my promotion board took 22 minutes. I made sergeant 3 days later. Whitaker was transferred to a desk job in a different state. He resigned 6 months after that. Colonel Reeves personally apologized to every Marine. Whitaker had targeted and implemented new oversight protocols for disciplinary reports. Sergeant Delgado apologized to me privately. I told him I understood. A year later, I was running my own logistics unit. I had 12 Marines under me, and I made sure every single one of them knew that mistakes were for learning, not for weaponizing. I also started carrying General Whitman's business card in my wallet. Not because I needed to call him, but because I needed to remember what real leadership looked like. 6 months after that, I got a call that General Whitman had passed away peacefully at his home. He was 79. I attended his funeral in full dress blues. The chapel was packed, hundreds of people whose lives he'd quietly changed. I wasn't special. I was just one of many. But at the reception afterward, his daughter found me. "Emily Harris?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. Dad talked about you. He said you reminded him why he believed in the Corps." She handed me a small wooden box. "He left this for you." Inside was a folded letter and a photograph. The photo showed a much younger Whitman standing in front of a logistics depot in Vietnam, covered in dust and grinning. The letter read, "Dear Emily, if you're reading this, then I've moved on to the great logistics depot in the sky, where everything is properly inventoried and nobody ever loses a flashlight. I want you to know something. That night in the diner 4 years ago changed my life as much as it changed yours. I'd been feeling old, invisible, like my service didn't matter anymore. And then this young Marine, this kid who had no reason to help a stranger, treated me with dignity. You reminded me that the best parts of the Corps aren't about rank. They're about character." When I learned about Major Whitaker's harassment campaign, I wasn't surprised. I've seen men like him my entire career. They climb by stepping on people who can't fight back. They confuse fear with respect. But here's what I've learned. The truth is patient. It waits. And when the right witness finally sees it, justice doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be certain. You didn't need me to save you, Emily. You saved yourself by refusing to become what he accused you of being. You stayed honorable when it would have been easier to be bitter. That's rare. I've enclosed my Vietnam logistics manual. Some of the procedures are outdated, but the philosophy isn't. Take care of your people, document everything. Never let the urgent override the important. And remember that systems exist to serve Marines, not the other way around. You're going to be a hell of a leader. I won't be around to see it, but I know it as surely as I know you bought me coffee that night and pretended I'd dropped that money. Semper Fi, kid. Make me proud. General Robert Whitman. P.S. Real leadership isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the most dependable one. You already know this. I'm just reminding you not to forget. I read that letter 3 times standing in his daughter's living room while people ate finger sandwiches and shared stories. Then I folded it carefully and put it back in the box. Now, 8 years after that night in the diner, I'm 30 years old. I'm a staff sergeant running a logistics battalion. I have 47 Marines under my command, and every single one of them knows my door is open. I keep General Whitman's letter in my desk drawer. On hard days, when I feel the weight of responsibility, when I wonder if I'm making the right call, I pull it out and read the PS. Last month, one of my corporals came to me in tears. Her supervisor had been writing her up for minor infractions, building a pattern, targeting her right before her promotion board. I listened. I documented. I made some calls. Her supervisor is no longer in a position of authority. The corporal made sergeant 2 weeks ago. If you're watching this and you've ever been in a situation where someone used their power to make you feel small, I want you to know something. Document everything. Stay professional. Don't let them make you bitter. And find your people, the ones who see your character instead of your rank, your humanity instead of your usefulness. Sometimes justice takes time. Sometimes it takes a witness who's patient enough to build a real case instead of a quick accusation. Sometimes it takes a stranger in a diner who decides you're worth paying attention to. If someone in power is targeting you right now, type "I'm documenting" in the comments. Or if you're on the other side, if you've been the person who stood up for someone being mistreated, type "I witnessed." Both matter. Both change outcomes. And if this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories about finding justice when the system fails you. Thank you for being here.